First thing is to open the door, which could be 2 clasps or 2 screws. To make it easy, I will lift off the door to give me more clearance. Remove the core and the filters, which leaves the fan assembly exposed. The fan assembly has a plug that could be 3-wire, 4-wire, 2 3s, or a 6, but that removes all electrical connection to this removable part. On all models at the back, there is a wing nut, so unwind it almost to the very end, which will be about 15 turns, and carefully pull this down to unlatch it. And you can see it wants to swing out, so it's very important it doesn't catch you by surprise. Unhook that, and this whole thing will come into your hand. It is supported by this reversed bent and the wing nut, which I have done here at the bottom. The force tools needed as a minimum for this job would be obviously the oil, a brush to clean off the excess dirt in the inside of the fan wheel, a knife edge or a screwdriver to pop out the yellow plugs, and a long screwdriver, long piece of wire to allow us to run oil down to the innermost bearing. The oiling of this motor is similar to its bigger sister, the 2000 model, which has 2 oil ports here with yellow or orange or red plugs. The important thing is to clean this fan of all the obvious dirt that it's picking up by simply turning it lightly. Don't put any force on the fan, but turning it and cleaning off the dirt which normal service will cause to accumulate on the blades. On this model, there are 2 places to clean: the side with the motor and the opposite side which has no motor. It's a lot easier without the motor, but again, the principle is the same: to turn it gently and to clean off the excess dirt. After the cleaning, do a really quick job of cleaning the outside of the excess dirt around it so that it is clean. After cleaning, you oil the motor. The easiest thing for us here is just a cardboard box that allows us to orient this motor in an upward direction to allow us to oil it easily. The oil plugs are easily removable, either with a sharp kitchen knife or a screwdriver, and it's just as easy as opening up this little tube of Andr oil and literally dropping the oil into the bearing and counting the drops. Surprisingly, because this runs 24 hours a day, this motor will consume 4 drops per year, so in a 3-year to 5-year recommended oil interval, this will use 12 drops, or in 5 years, 20 drops in each end. It's important to realize that this motor has 2 bearings. It has one that's facing us here, and another bearing that's identical on the other end. Therefore, the little plug on the inside, which is also the same color as the outside one, it's important to remove it and do exactly the same thing. The challenge is that it is hard to get the oil there, and the easiest way we found without having a nice oiler is to literally use a long screwdriver or a piece of wire, aim this in the general direction of that hole, and just run oil down the shaft and literally count the drops that you put in. Accept the fact that you're going to miss a bunch and just count the ones that go into the opening, and that's why the oil is captured in the rag for what you miss, so it doesn't contaminate the fan wheel, which begins to collect dust. The oil that we recommend is Andr oil. It is actually the original synthetic for which these motors were packed with. It's definitely the best for the job, and we're more than happy to mail that compliments of Eneready for any of you who have motors from the 2000 model. When that is complete, you put the plugs back in. If you haven't oiled it for many years, it wouldn't hurt to let it sit for a couple hours for that oil to fully soak in to the wick. And once it's soaked into the wick, the orientation no longer matters because it can't drain back out. It is locked into the pores of the wick. Replacement is hanging this on its holders and pushing it back up and then putting the wing nut back in. Lastly, plug in the connector exactly like it was done before.